where Blanca here is going to, our guest speaker is going to basically talk about what security certifications and not just Salesforce security certifications you need in 2026. I looked at the slides earlier today and I'm very excited myself to see this topic. So, what is Salesforce Security Office Hours? Well, basically, as we've all said just about every session, so I created Salesforce Security Office Hours because as an attempt to, in response to all of these breaches that we were seeing in 2025, and they were, they were not declining, they were increasing. And also the fact that many people didn't have access to the security resources you need, especially nonprofits and smaller organizations, in order to get those answers you need right now, or even some large organizations that don't put the budget in for that. So we're putting this here as a forum so we can help you understand and learn about the things you need to be thinking about right now, and also the things you need to be doing right now, and getting access to those professionals every 2 weeks so you can ask any question that you have regarding this topic. So, rules of engagement, just be respectful to others. Open engagement, everyone is allowed to talk, just don't interrupt anyone. If you have questions, you can raise your hand. You can also, put it in the questions there. But the key thing is we want you to take notes and walk away with something actionable that you can implement today, take to your boss, to yourself. I mean, this is all to help you guys. So anyway, so next, just to introduce myself, I am the founder and CEO of EzProtect. I am a Salesforce CTA with over 19 years experience in the Salesforce ecosystem, and I'm also author of the best-selling book, Securing Salesforce Digital Experiences. And my passion in life is really helping to help people know what they need to be doing and helping them protect their data in Salesforce. Blanca, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. I don't know what time because I know we got people from all around the world, but I hope you're having a good day. I am Blanca Leon-Carter. I'm from the Windy City, Chicagoland area. I have recently been inducted to the Salesforce MVP Hall of Fame. I also very recently incorporated and founded my own company, which is still in very soft launch mode. But it's a Leon AI Labs, and currently in my full-time position, I am working on all things innovation and architect and being responsible when it comes to emerging tech and AI, specifically at DeVry University, which is my alma mater from undergrad and grad school. I'm also the VP of Community Engagement at Rad Women. In addition to my many Salesforce certs and Capado certs, I've been diving in with a lot of different curriculum programs from MIT, Purdue University. So I have quite a few that I've already completed in the AI space and machine learning. And just this week, I started a new program with Carnegie Mellon for the Chief Data AI Officer certification program. And really, what I look for when I'm learning is how can I take this back and make an impact immediately with what I'm learning in the type of work that I'm doing and the people that I'm working with and my company and future clients, etc. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you. That is amazing background. You're making me feel like I want to get some of those certs right now because
I
after
want
reading
to
through
get to
your deck,
CTA soon.
I
No.
know, I know. Maybe we can help each other. So awesome. All right, so let's move on. So, Office Hours, is, I always say every sentence, is supported by EzProtect. If you don't know EzProtect, what we do is we help protect companies' data from viruses in Salesforce through links or files. And so, I mean, especially if you have any questions about, how we may be able to help you, just please feel free to reach out, let us know. All right, moving on. So what we like to do is we like to do a recap of the previous sessions. So last time was architecting trusted Salesforce solutions. And so pretty much these are bullets. You can read them. One integration user per vendor kind of helps limit your blast radius. And, make sure I always say this all the time, enable IP restrictions on every request, not in session settings, not just on login, and make sure that at least privilege applies to integrations users too. They are a user, so make sure that you are applying those same things and auditing your connected app permissions. If you want to see the whole session, there's the QR code. Feel free to click that later or watch in the recap, the recording. So trending topic that's happening right now, 2025 IC2, there was a workforce study where 88% of the respondents said their organization experienced at least one significant cybersecurity incident due to skill gaps, and 41% cite the AI as the most critical skill needed. And this was followed by cloud security at 36%, 30% at organizations that lack resources to actively staff their teams. And we see this all the time in the Salesforce ecosystem where there's people, there are not dedicated security roles in the ecosystem as well, or people that are knowledgeable about security topics. We need help as Salesforce professionals to bridge that gap. And I think this session is going to be great to help start that process. And also, for the first time, IC2 did not publish a workforce gap estimate. Respondents prioritized the need for critical skills as more important than the need for people, which is very interesting. So you can see the study there if you're interested. And my least favorite slide I show every day is that these are breaches in 2025 that could have been avoided, or mostly could have been avoided, if they were had the security role in place, they had the right education for their people, and they were implementing the right controls. And there's a lot of things that could have been done, and this list just keeps growing and growing and growing. And which I like to, I mentioned, I think last time, is it's interesting that there's actually security companies on this list too. So the companies that are providing that incident management and the monitoring are also getting breached in Salesforce, which shows that there's a big gap right now of in Salesforce specifically when it comes to security and security monitoring. And we'll always like to show just a few metrics before we get going, and then we'll head on to Blanca's presentation today. But 65% of cybersecurity professionals say certifications are the best way to prove knowledge and understanding. And I'm going to actually expand that a little bit more to the executives out there. Is it worse that you don't train your people, or and they leave, or is it worse that you do and they, is it worse that you train your people and they leave, or you don't train your people and they stay? I think I love that quote always. That's a much worse thing, of course, because then you're putting your company at risk if you don't do it. And the last thing is, what security certifications do you need as a sales professional in 2026? I'm going to hand the mic over to Blanca. And Blanca, I'll try to advance the slides as I can,
I'll cue
or
you.
just give me some cues.
Yeah, thank you. And I think this one may have a little bit of an automation on it, because the bullets aren't showing up. But why your Salesforce certs aren't enough, and why the certifications that I'm going to start reviewing in a few seconds matter now and are imperative to be aware of. I'm not going to go through these bullet for bullet. I was kind of intending for them just to be listed. What I like to do is give you um, a little bit of my thoughts around it. You can have the bullets for referencing. I think they're very important, and you'll see in the next slides why I'm strategizing this talk this way. But really, what I like to do is do more commentary as we're going through the slides. So for this one, I wanted to start off by grounding us in why I went down this path of exploring, outside of the traditional Salesforce Trailhead certifications, what was available. And I didn't pursue this training and certification journey for badges. I already mentioned that a lot of what I spend time in learning, I'm taking it back. Some things I may know, some things I may have been a little weak in, and I had to formalize some learnings for it and then to bring it back to the workplace or share with others as we have conversations about how to navigate this digital transformation with a lot of AI powering experiences. So I pursued them because AI started changing the shape of risk inside the platforms that I already knew very well, like Salesforce. Been in this ecosystem for what, 13 years, I think now, maybe a little more. I won't date myself. But this was pretty enlightening because what it indicated for me is that the old models are no longer sufficient, right? The things may still be working, but the margin for error was shrinking. And what I will share is not a jury narrative of like which cert I started training and sitting for first and second. This is more how these certs change the way that I'm thinking. Next slide, please. So for starters, we're going to go with ISC2's CISSP. This one actually, when thinking through this one, I always kind of had it in the back of my head, even though I've been in IT and operations for an entire lifetime and spent 20 years in nonprofit owning operations in IT. I had it in my mind that this specific certification often assumed extremely deep technical. And what I realized going through the training program is that it's not. The CISSP is more about responsibility, and it really forces you to stop thinking in terms of the features and start thinking in terms of risk ownership. So you learn how security decisions are justified, documented, and defended when something does go wrong. So what surprised me most was how little of this certification is on tools. It's actually about judgment and specifically navigating judgment when there's a lot of ambiguity. So when you're constantly asked to choose between imperfect options, and that mirrors everything that we see in real enterprise environments, including our Salesforce orgs, is where convenience, speed, and access are always in tension with control. So after the CISSP, I stopped seeing Salesforce as a secure by default. And Matt, if you want to start loading the bullets for that other side, that would be great. I started seeing it as a powerful system that requires discipline, profiles, permission sets, integrations, automations, and exceptions. These are all security decisions, whether we like to label and call them that or not. And so the way I want you to look at these bullets on the slides, I'm adding my commentary as a Salesforce professional that has gone through training and passed some of these certifications already. But I want you to think of the left-hand side bullet points in white as Blanca's takeaways of the certification learning objectives for each, and or like a high level, this is what it means for what this certification is about. And then the blue box is highlighting either Salesforce implications or the relevance of this certification and their objectives and what you're learning to what that means for us in Salesforce world. So here are some bullets that you can take away. And Matt, we can move on to the next one. So the next one is ISACA's AAISM and AAISM. There's so many acronyms. I can't keep them all straight. This one is one of the newer ones that ISACA has released, and it's the Advanced AI Security Management Certification. This one does require that you have already had work experience and that you have passed the CISSP, but what this specific training path gave me is, not about how the models work with AI, but it's about how AI, again, is changing risk. AI introduces behaviors and it increases and widens that attack surface, right? Prompts, context, tool invocation, automation paths matter as much as our roles and permissions. So, what challenged me realizing that many AI risks are organizational, not technical, right? I spent a lot of time in the DevOps space, and um, 80% comes in the people in the process, right? Not the tools. And so here, with this certification, it's who owns AI outcomes, who approves AI enabled access, who monitors behavior after deployment. Those gaps exist long before any incident even occurs. So in Salesforce terms, this changed how I think about AI features, agents, and agentic systems. AI is not just another automation. It is a system that can act, it can decide, and scale mistakes faster than us as humans. So the demands are stronger. It demands stronger guardrails and not looser ones. Next slide, Matt. This next certification up is the ISO 42001. They love the numbers because they have so many standards that they provide, but this one is the AI management system. And there's actually various levels of certifications for this path. There's foundation, and then there's lead implementer if you want to be a lead implementer. And this certification stood out for me because it emphasized, there's a lot of emphasis on documentation and repeatability, not looking at that as bureaucracy, but as a control. So intent, scope, risk management, risk assessment, monitoring, and improvement, they're all part of this AI system. And after working through this, I stopped and reviewed and started viewing AI governance and guidance decks and principles. Um, these help support, but we need to take what we're learning in those frameworks and those decks and principles and figure out how to tailor them for our company and our teams and what that means for us and how can we make them fit and white glove for us. So I started viewing it as an operational system. Uh, in Salesforce environments, this translates to consistent patterns for who can use the AI features, what data they can access, how changes are approved, and how behavior is monitored over time. The next one up is the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. And this one, it's not about compliance. This certification and this training path and this framework is about making uncertainty explicit. So govern, map, measure, and manage are the functions within this framework. And those functions help slow teams down just enough to think before acting. So what stood out was timing, right? Risk framing. Matt, you just showed all the labels of the logos of folks that were involved in some kind of breach. You normally will hear the risk framing come when we start seeing the news, right? Or when they're already aware that something's gone wrong. But in reality, the NIST helps us put the emphasis and change the mindset and insist that it happens before deployment and it continues after launch. It also clarified how governance and security work together. So governance sets risk tolerance and security enforces the boundaries. And this NIST AI risk management framework keeps them aligned as systems evolved. So that shared clarity is what makes AI sustainable and at scale. Next one, Matt. Next one up is the IAPP, so it's the International International Association of Privacy Professionals. And with this one, they have a newly introduced, I want to say maybe it's like, I don't know, a year and a half or two ago, AI Governance Professional. And this helps to frame how I think about AI responsibility. When I went through this training, I still have to sit for the cert, but there's a lot of information and a lot to ground on within this training program. So it's not about building AI, it's about governing impact through law, risk, and accountability. The focus is on people and decisions and consequences, not the AI models for this training pathway. In the Salesforce environments, this matters when AI touches customer data, employee records, and or decision support. The AI governance professional helped me connect platform choices to trust and to regulatory exposure. So a common misconception is that it's only for legal teams with this because, a lot of people think of the entity that's putting together this curriculum, and really, it really gives architects, security leaders, product owners a shared language to govern AI responsibly. Next one up, Matt. So the DASA Agentic AI Enterprise Strategist this is actually an interesting one because it's not like a training program. You go through an actual boot camp cohort with other peers, and then you get certified at the end of your presentation for the capstone if you did well. So this one really tied everything together for me. This specific certification is not about building the agents, right? The focus was about making sure autonomy does not outrun our readiness. So the hardest lesson here was that most AI failures are change failures, right? I spent a lot of time in the DevOps space, and managing change is a big part of that. And teams move too fast without stabilizing their process, access, or ownership and monitoring. And that ends up introducing a lot of challenges and things, opportunities for things to go sideways and with bad implications and ramifications. It reinforced something critical for me. Agentic systems amplify whatever discipline already exists. So if your company is weak on the governance side, well, the AI just accelerates the failure, right? If the governance is strong, then AI accelerates the value. In Salesforce ecosystem, this shows up when automation, agents, and integration start acting across the systems uh, without clear ownership, constraints, and release discipline. Autonomy really becomes a risk, and it's a higher level risk. Next one, Matt. So a few cross-cutting lessons and the commentary that I'd like to make sure I stop and I hope you hear me loud and clear on this because it comes deep from within my trailhead heart as a community group leader and a well-architected ambassador. But I want to normalize something before we close. There's no single correct starting point. Right? Start somewhere. You don't need to like know exactly how you're going to ping pong through all of this content. But some of you are going to begin as admins. I started as an admin back in 20, so what is it? 2013, I think it was. I lose track of time here, but it's a long time ago. Navigated through admin developer, then architect. So some of you may have started off as developers. Some of you may have come in through security or architecture or the delivery side. But these certifications, they don't replace experience, right? These are not something you can try to cram for and pass by memory. These really do reshape how you interpret and how you use your judgment, right? And how you make better decisions, how you ask more challenging questions. So what they gave me was not so much answers or like, this is the way you go about it. I always say with kids, they don't give you a book that says how to raise them, right? So these certs are not going to give you those answers, but they are going to give you the knowledge. They are going to help provide how the experts in these various areas have shaped what can support us in tailoring it to what it means for our teams and our companies and the work that we do. So um, they gave me better questions, better judgment. They helped me see that Salesforce, SaaS, and AI as an interconnected system where decisions do compound over time. So AI, and this is not a quote that I got to track down who said it because I've heard it like in multiple venues in different ecosystems, but AI did not create new governance problems. The important thing to understand here is that it exposed the ones that are already there. And even if your company's not using AI, right? If you're using SaaS and you make easy click changes without knowing that I use proper judgment, that I make a good decision based on, what implications and ramifications come with the simple change I'm making with clicks. These are all things we need to be cognizant of. And soon everyone's going to be using AI within their orgs, right? So it's important to make sure that we walk away with this. And if there's one thing I hope that you take away in this, um, security and governance, they're not blockers to innovation. Um, they are what makes scale survivable, right? If they don't go hand in hand, you're not going to be able to scale without losing sleep night after night and ending up in headlines left and right. So this is very important, and that is the lens that the various programs have provided for me. I have I have some thoughts about this because I do have in my head, having been an admin, having wear the BA hat, having been the project manager, having been the architect or the tech lead, the solution owner, various titles. I think it's really important to understand which pieces of these can resonate with you in your roles within our Salesforce ecosystem, what you see. So there may come a blog series, or I don't know, Matt, maybe we could do a part two, but I think that's another important area. For today, my focus was really to help create awareness that these certifications are out there. If you go to the next slide, Matt, these are just some closing reflections. So again, there's no single correct, this is the sequence you do it, or this is the one that you need to go after. You have to align it with, where you are as a professional in maturity, in knowledge within these areas, and where are your interest areas? How does it align with your responsibilities in the workplace? And where do you see that you have some gaps that you need to fill out and flesh out with formal training? And so they sharpen your perspective, these certifications, they really do. I already said better questions are, you know, beating the fast answers. And Salesforce is, yes, a part of a big, larger system that's going to be connecting with a lot more things via this agentic world that we're moving into. And governance and security make AI sustainable. I'm wearing my I Heart RAI t-shirt for those of you that joined a little late, but I am a strong advocate in that responsible AI is AI that can be explained, constrained, audited, and stopped. So there's a lot more to cover, but if anyone has any specific questions on these certs, I'm happy to provide some more details in your search to figure out if one of these may be a right one for you to tackle in 2026.
Yep. That was an awesome presentation for sure. I mean, I think I learned quite a bit, and I saw some things in there that I myself or we at EzProtect actually follow. So, like for example, when we're doing our onboarding with our customers now, and I think Eric was in the pilot of this, but what we're doing like a security assessment, but it's based on the NIST threat response lifecycle now. So now it's not only just doing an assessment of your org, helping you understand the right things you should be doing and checking your org to see if there's any kind of, big gotcha issues. It's actually helping people understand what to do when you have a threat. So in our case, for example, when a virus comes into Salesforce, is it, we're blocking it in that org, but did that user upload it to other environments, other non-Salesforce environments? How, it's not just ignoring that one file that got there. How are you tracing that and going, beyond that to understand what, how all the phases of the threat response lifecycle, through identification. I think it's like containment, eradication, recovery, and then the most important, I think, which is lesson learned so it doesn't happen again. And so that really spoke to me since that's what we're already doing today and we're expanding that. And I think that's something that a lot of people forget about in the security world is looking, trying to, you put this tool in, but are you really monitoring, why that tool's there? It's one thing if you're just trusting it works, but there's more things that you need to do in addition to that, because right now there's no tool out there that really does all of this stuff. So, I mean, I'd love to hear, Blanca, do you have any other comments on that and on, from the NIST side of things?
Yeah. Definitely agree with you. In this, they have their framework, but ISO has a few other certification. There's one that I had a slide, but due to time, I pulled it out. I think it's the three. I'll send it for you guys, but it's for AI governance in general. I think when you pair up these frameworks together and these standards, what it helps is gives you these are the things that if we didn't know anything about this area that we should understand, right? The vocabulary, um, the actors, right? What level of responsibility and accountability for the different players in this ecosystem of business and what we do, right? And the DASA certification, the enterprise AI, I think it's called Agentic AI Enterprise Strategist. It's very long, but DASA is actually the DevOps Agile Skill Association. I'm actually one of the very few U.S. ambassadors for DASA. When I enrolled in the boot
I think
camp,
this is
oh yeah, that was the next one from the governance one. So for this one, it's like a higher level up in terms of understanding governance for managing AI, right? Like it talks about, the leadership responsibility, the decision rights, making it very explicit. Strategy without governance, it's going to create more risk. And I hear this battle all the time, this tug of war, and it's not just in the Salesforce ecosystem. I'm a part of a community which Noelle Russo, who actually is a Microsoft MVP, and she's been doing AI leadership for, I don't know, probably a decade plus or more. And her community also shares real world experience from the customers and people who, the corporations that are trying to wrap their heads around this and will, how much governance is going to stop us, right? It's going to be a blocker. We're not going to be able to be agile and deliver, but I think it's always that how do I approach taking what we're learning in these frameworks and these standards and helping to educate our executive stakeholders and the business leaders that have decision making and how much we can advance in building out these governance frameworks, communities of practice. It's important because you have to ask them, what's our appetite, our risk appetite for XYZ project you want to take on without the proper governance, right? And if that risk appetite is at a higher threshold, well, you're doing your company a disservice by not spending time and making sure that you have this in place from the beginning. And you can do things simultaneously. The role I jumped into, we didn't have a lot of this in place before I joined, and it's something that we've been working on over the last year, right? Is figuring out, okay, we're already doing stuff with AI and have it in production in some places, but there are other bigger projects with AI and agentic systems that we're working on, and how do we make sure that we have the proper stakeholder, not just buy-in, but leadership and having our backs and making sure that we have the time to come as a community to put in these governance frameworks tailored to how we work, what our business does, what the risk appetite is, and how we move things. And it's not just security, right? It's also data governance as well. We didn't even go into that today. That's a whole nother area.
Yep, exactly, exactly. And I've got one or two more questions for you, and then we can jump into answer some of the audience questions as well. So the first question I have is just since you open up the topic of governance here, I mean, we go through a lot of, of course, being a security company and security offering, we go through a lot of the security assessments when we onboard with vendors, right? But I feel a lot of times it's more of a check the box exercise rather than actually securing it with a lot of these questions that we see in these questionnaires. They're trying to, be the one solution fits all. It seems like just more of making it look like they're actually, sometimes they have some good questions, but most of the time there doesn't, or they're too broad for the Salesforce ecosystem. They don't actually apply to Salesforce, or it's too broad. Like, do you have role-based access? And that's always going to be yes, but then that doesn't go deep enough. So I'd love to hear what's your take on this. Do you feel like that the enterprises are doing enough when it comes to security assessment, especially in the Salesforce ecosystem. What else do you think they could do? Should they completely change how they approach it? I think that'd be a great to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, having spent 5 years in consulting with one of the global Salesforce implementation partners, I've seen a lot of variances within these companies that we've partnered with, right? Fortune 500 companies, some of them are, 100-plus-year-old companies, all different sizes. And what I've seen is that um, it really does vary greatly on where their maturity level is and how much do they have in terms of leadership support and organizational culture and mindset to make investments in these areas are very different from one to the next. So I will say it's kind of a wild card, Matt, right? Like you might have one client that they're in better shape maturity wise, and so this conversation is easier. And then you have other clients that sometimes they thought they were in better shape and then they realized, no, we're not. And maybe we need to reevaluate and hire for some more role specific or bring on a CISO if they didn't have one already, or figure out how, especially in our Salesforce teams, we sometimes wear multiple hats and we have smaller teams, right? We may not have someone on the Salesforce team from IT even managing our environments. And I'm speaking from some of the customer teams that I was on when I was a consultant. So this is definitely an area that varies greatly. And I can't say that I have a high confidence that there's a high percentage of companies that have it together. And I think with my programs that I've finished in MIT and having had peers across the world and all different companies, a lot of the pain points are the same. The same questions you're asking. Are we doing enough? Um, is how we're doing it even meeting our needs right now? How has it changed? Where are the gaps? Where are our pain points? Where are the risks that we didn't even know were there that we need to know are there, right? Like I wish Don Robbins, I loved his play-by-play series where he would kind of go through what are the things you need to know that we didn't know that we should know. And I feel like this is that $1 million question that we could unpack as a Salesforce ecosystem, but my confidence level is not high in that percentage level is high in terms of companies and teams that are well equipped and are running with good governance
Yep.
models.
Yep. And I'd say the $100 million question, or maybe the $1 billion question if you're a Jaguar Land Rover. So my next question for you is actually, around do you feel that there's a missing role in the Salesforce project teams today and application teams and COEs, which is a security role? And then, it's not that, just because we're talking here, this is going to change, but what could people do today to start filling those gaps?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And yes, that role has been missing. I have been on various clients when I was in the consulting world where security, I think there's like this misconception because it's SaaS, right? That you buy it, it's like another SaaS product, it's already in the cloud, it's already configured. And so you don't have to do much to manage those areas of security and access. But I think those roles are missing. The exact titles, I mean, I'd like to see, Salesforce specific security architect, right? Like, I think that's one important one. I also feel like having been through, an admin who was a customer side product owner and wearing the admin hat and having navigated through admin helper, having navigated over into the architect area, I think, and even like for BAs too, I think there are elements of and different components of these certification and governance and privacy that we all could skill up as
Yeah.
it relates to that specific role. And I haven't seen anything out there yet, which is why I'm thinking of doing a blog that can kind of start charting out what that looks like.
Mhm.
But I feel there's a huge value for Salesforce ecosystem to find a way how we can get together and start helping support each other in what that may look like. And if it's not already published by Salesforce, how can we put something together ourselves to support this network? And you guys are doing an awesome job with these security hours every week
Thank you.
and all of what you're doing. So yeah, there could be a lot more work to be done
Yep.
there for sure.
And I think I would say the one thing I would say to the people that are the admins, even the developers, the architects on the Salesforce team to say, well, the executives won't listen to me. I can tell them that I need this role, but they're not going to listen to me. Well, I mean, what I've seen a lot of times in companies is you create your own role. You can create the need. If you start learning these things, you start showing the value of it, you could actually elevate yourself as a professional and also showing that value to the executives that look at the things that I uncovered because I learned these security, I got these certifications. Look at the value. Look, I'm not, we don't show up on Matt's slide now because of this. And I think if we had some of these roles in there, very possibly we might have seen the first two or three companies on the slide because they were the first to get hit. But you wouldn't see 30, 40, 100 companies that got hit because there would be someone that says, "Oh, wait, everyone's getting hit with this thing. Let's see if we're going to be a victim as that as well." And that would have been caught. And I think that I feel is the big gap. And I think this is a perfect segue into this. And read the shirt. Only you can prevent and contain data breaches in Salesforce. So Cody, Astro, and now Einstein are, so I think this is the key here. It's up to you. Only you can prevent these data breaches. If you elevate yourself, you start showing the value, you start seeing the need for this role. It's amazing how funding will open up for new roles and you'll actually can help elevate your career. I've seen this when I worked at Salesforce, people would do this. They'd step into the role, show the need for it, then all of a sudden they get in this role and someone else gets hired to take their job over. And so this is a great way to even improve your career. Next thing just want to mention here, join us at Cactus Force. I don't know, Blanca, if you're speaking there, but I am. I'm speaking there at Cactus Force and Architect Training in Phoenix. Tickets, as I hear, are running out. So if you would like to join, you can go to Cactus Force. I believe it's cactusforce.com or something similar, but also you've got the QR code there as well. So I'm going to go and open up the floor now for questions. So for the audience, I know we have some in the Q&A here. Also, just while we're doing that, I just wanted to show some of our resources. If you want to get a copy of the book here, Securing Salesforce Digital Experiences, all proceeds go to nonprofit and good causes. We have some more security resources, and you can subscribe to videos that I post on YouTube, including this office hours. That's the QR code for there. So let's go and jump in. First one is from someone, Nicholas from our team. Here he says, in your opinion, which security certifications best applies to the Salesforce ecosystem overall? Great question, Nicholas.
Yeah, we don't have one that's incredibly white glove, right? We know that that's a glaring from the top of the mountains issue or deficit for us, right? But I would say I highlighted the CISSP, but that one has an incredible wealth of domains that it covers and stretches across. But even if you don't want to go directly to the CISSP, they have other certifications like do a cybersecurity professional. And I know Rachel Park was on the call. I don't know if she still is. She recently achieved that certification and she spent a lot of time in training in that. And is involved with some of the women's cybersecurity networks. But those are great places to start, right? For sure. I think a lot of it is relevant because, again, a lot of the security stuff is not just one vendor, right? It's about our judgment and our decisions and how well we're educated to make better decisions around that. So I would say go there.
Yep, that's great. Okay, so next one is from Beach, who's on the call too. And he's a frequent visitor here. If
I
focusing on
remember
ethics,
Beach. Good to
yep.
see you. I know I don't see you on camera, but I remember you. Always a joy.
So, if focusing on ethical usage and responsibility, both in the use of AI as well as making choices to reduce wasted resources, electricity, heating more chips, is there a good training or certification path?
That's a good question. I would say ethical usage and responsibility. Um, there's an organization called I think it's like responsibleai.org. I would check out their resources. They have a lot of different communities within their organization, and they focus a lot in these different areas. The one that I think also touches is some of what's covered in the AI Governance Professional, right? The AIPP's one. That one covers ground a lot in like understanding compliance and regulations. There's a huge aspect of, you know, implications of AI and things that it can do to harm, society, and I think that's probably a really good one to look at as well as the AI Governance Professional with IAPP.
Yeah,
Great question, Beach.
completely agree. And one follow-up question for Beach, have you come across the SABSA on your certification journey?
Can you come off mute and say it? Because I feel like that acronym looks familiar, but I just can't nail where I've maybe heard of it before. It's
And Beach,
that
do you
would be,
want to come off mute really
Yeah,
quick?
sorry. Yeah, that one's SABSA. So that one's on kind of business use cases. So it's kind of like demonstrating the business value for security.
oh, yeah. I think I've seen the acronym, but I haven't myself spent any time in that specific area. But thanks, Beach, for highlighting that because maybe that can go into a follow-up on the blog is like, here's some ones that I'm curious about because it does sound like a really good one. And I think that's the thing, right? Is with the use cases and thinking through the business impact, folks are still trying to navigate how does that work, right? How do we really understand the what solutions can come with AI to really nail in what does that business impact look for us. So that's a good one. Beach, thank you so much.
Yep. And then it looks like we have two more questions from one from Srinivas and one for Dan in chat. So I'll start with Srinivas and I'll answer this one first because this is one of my soapboxes, I would say, but I'm sure you have some more to say about it as well, Blanca. Srinivas says some executives view certifications as testing memorization rather than real world judgment. From your perspective, how should security leaders position certifications alongside hands-on experience in architectural decision making? I think first off, thank you, Srinivas. That is an excellent question and something that I like to talk about a lot as well, which is certifications should not be just check the box exercises. It shouldn't just be memorization. And some of it is, of course, on the onus of the people that write the certifications, making it harder so you can't check the box. Where I think the admins are a little bit easier to just study for and kind of pass. Like I know people that never even had any Salesforce experience that passed the admins certification, but then as you start getting higher up the tier, Salesforce does a better job of bringing experience in. But also, I think it's up to the executives to really push that aspect of saying of that certifications are really I feel is a validation that you have acquired that knowledge in your journey. Another way from a personal perspective or even from executive perspective is don't allow people to finish their certification journey with just a bare pass. So Salesforce sets the bar pretty low for the pass, rate. I think some was like 68%, which I think in many schools that's failing. For me, it should be 90% or higher. If you didn't get a 90% or higher, you didn't really master that content. You didn't really check, validate that. And that's kind of what I did in my journey. I retook it until I got that 90% or higher. Also think about your career for perspective. If you are the just the at the lower end of getting that knowledge, once you get on an interview, someone else that has that same cert is going to be able to talk better than you to that. They're going to get caught up. You won't. Also, that's also how I proceeded with the CTA for me. For the CTA, it was a knowledge journey, and the CTA was that validation in the end that I acquired and gained that knowledge. Granted, the CTA is really hard to pass if you don't have that knowledge, but I think that's really how you should think about it, and that's how I think executives should think about it from that journey. And Blanca, do you have your own thing? And I think
I
also Rachel
do.
has a hand up too, probably wants to say something about that too.
No, I have an entire soapbox as well. And I kind of set the tone and alluded to it early on in the call, right? When I said that these are not just certs, that I am striving for. Um, this is really, there's so much evolving. It's going so fast, right? I've been in IT managing for my whole lifetime of my whole career. So security has always been a part of that, right? And I think with AI and the shifts that have happened, it's really, okay, things are really moving exponentially fast with these transformations. And how can we start leveraging them, but leveraging them where we are well educated and understand like what do we need to think about? What are those hard questions that we don't know we should be asking before we go build and we deploy and we send out to pilot, I mean to production, right? Like how do we do that? So everything that I spend time in, I take it back and I'm like, okay, this percentage I knew already. Great. I got some validation. I was doing that pretty well. But this other percentage is a new area. I need to start having some more conversations with other folks within the company or, peers in the network of that specific tech space, if it's security or if it's AI, something specific. Like, who do I know who's an expert that I can bounce things off of and help and get some support as I am digesting what I'm learning and understanding how do I translate that to be able to put it into something that can support our team, our company, our customers, and society. And so for me, it's never ending. And it's why some of these certs I haven't passed just yet. I've passed a few of them already and have the certifications, but some of them, it's a continued growth and work on. In fact, the AIGP, I think I finished the training mid last year, right? I probably could have sat for the cert, but I'm like, no, I don't feel comfortable enough. There's a lot more to spend time and review some of the other resources and some of the other case studies and really make sure that I'm well grounded before I even want to try to sit for the cert because it's more about how do I take this back and put it in action, whatever it is that I'm learning in the
Yep.
spaces, and how do I share that knowledge to help empower others as well? Because everyone's on a different, stage in that trajectory of understanding these things. And so you can always help someone just like somebody can help me. Matt, you probably helped me months ago, and now I'm here sharing a little bit more about what may help somebody else, right?
Exactly. There you go. Rachel, did you want to add something really quick?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on what Blanca shared about my certification. I would say I achieved the ISC2 certified in cybersecurity, which is an entry level cybersecurity cert, and Blanca can attest. I wanted to cancel quite quite a few times, but don't discount your transferable skills. I had to remind myself that I've done a lot of security assessments within Salesforce projects, and of course I still studied my butt off, but I did pass on the first try. Blanca was actually my very first call. So thanks to Blanca for not letting me cancel. And just trust in what you know. I think that's true within taking any certification exam. Like you said, sometimes you never know and just try and you might pass. I did want to share that right now ISC2 for a limited time is offering free like the first attempt CC exams. So I'm just going to add the link in the chat.
That's amazing
That,
because
that
they're
Yeah,
is
pretty
that is
expensive.
they
A lot of these are,
yeah,
and
they're current
I think it's wise if you can find some resources to help support the journey.
yeah,
Yep.
right now IAC2 is pledging 1 million free IAC2 CC exams. So
Wow.
I'm just going to put that link in. I
That's
would definitely
awesome.
take advantage of that when I can. First try though. So
Yep. All right, great. So let's get on. We're just about out of time, but let's get to Dan's question. Can you think of a good Agentforce use case focused on Salesforce security? I have our one, Dan, for you as well. When I was at Dreamforce, I saw Pete Thurston, that's over product manager over the Security Center, Shield, and all that. And it was in the roadmap that I saw they're launching a new security agent in Salesforce that can identify security issues within your org, and then I believe it goes through Security Center and all that. I think as individuals, we could probably do this something similar on top of what they're working on and have a security agent that could help identify those issues in your org that you could then maybe surface. And that's just a thought I've had about a good use case. But I'd love to hear Blanca and even Rachel or anyone else on the call if you have any your own feedback on that. And then, as always, we're at time, but we're happy to stay on the call. Anyone else that just wants to verbally ask any questions, have any commentary, I'm happy to open the floor after this question. So I guess Blanca, you can go first.
I think the use cases, I don't have one that's directly top of mind, but I know that during Dreamforce, there was a session, I think it was actually Cheryl Feldman and her team who put together a sneak peek of what was coming out in terms of managing changes in the setup area for us with the permission side. And I think taking a step back because we know that we've had so many challenges with navigating either the click paths or the different areas you can change access. I think taking a step back to really think through out of the box, wild wish list, right? Because with AI supporting it and Agentforce supporting it, there's so many things that we can think of, but oftentimes we don't have time to take that step back to even have a wild idea of like, that's a great AI use case. And then let's talk to Cheryl and team, and because they've been doing already awesome work in there, but they can use some more support too, because this is a never ending, always changing area with very high um, dollar, brand, and legal ramifications if things go wrong.
Yep, exactly. And I'll just kind of from one thing, and then we'll open the floor up as well. Mike just made a comment that it feels like Salesforce is really doing the agent force rush into push everything. And I know these are dangerous words, and we know why, Blanca, and anyone else that's a law advocate. I say slow down. I say make sure that you think of it right. Make sure you have the right roles in your organization, people with the right capabilities, understand how to write safe prompts, how to implement it, and also don't just create a use case for the sake of a use case just because you want to use Agentforce. Find the right end use case that's going to be powerful for your organization. I can give you, not Agentforce that we did recently, but we created in ChatGPT an agent to help fill in security questionnaires and from previous ones we've done, and that's helping our team get better, get faster, and focus more on the answers rather than trying to fill in questionnaires. So that's a great use case of just a general AI, I think, but there's a lot of others you can do. So, yep, that's right, Dan. So, does anyone have anything else you want to add? I know Rachel, if you want to talk or anyone else, feel free to come off mic. If not, then we'll give it a few seconds, and then we can close out if no one else has any other questions. All right, I hear crickets. So that usually signals the end of the show. Thank you everyone for joining. Feel free to always, you can DM me, connect with Blanca, anybody else if you have any further questions. Until then, looking forward to everyone on the next office hours, and hope to see you there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Matt and Tristan, for the invite. It was a joy.
Yes, for sure. Thanks.